I'm going to call to order the October 22nd, 2013 meeting of the Oshkosh Common Council. I want to welcome those of you that are here in the council chamber tonight to the council chamber. I also want to welcome those people who might be watching this on Channel 10, those who might be watching us on their computers, those who might be listening to us on their computers, and those who might be listening to us on the radio. This is your city government. We do want your involvement in whatever form it takes. So thank you for your participation. I'm going to ask the clerk to take the roll call.
Fitzgerald.
Here.
Cummings.
Here.
Ellison Osby. Heck.
Here.
Herman.
Here.
Clark.
Here.
Tower.
Here.
Carried 6. President 6. Sorry.
Carried.
I'm going to ask all to rise for the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Invocation will be led by Councilmember Fitzgerald, and then we'll have our students help us with the pledge of allegiance. So.
We are mindful of the blessings of liberty that we have in this nation. May our decisions tonight improve the quality of life in our city and for our residents.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ask the students to hang around. Why don't you come back here with me and we'll line up right across here. I'm going to pass the microphone down the line. Some of these people like to know who you are and know a little bit about you. So I'm going to pass the microphone down the line. I'd like each one of you to give us your name, where you go to school, what grade you're in, and why don't you tell us what your favorite subject is and why it's your favorite subject. So speak well into the microphone here.
My name is Gavin, and I go to Cabrini, and I'm in 4th grade, and my favorite subject is social studies because I like to learn about the country and a lot of other stuff.
My name is Porter. My school is Cabrini. I'm in 4th grade, and my favorite subject is spelling because I get good grades.
My name is Ruby Kildy. I go to Seton, and I'm in 5th grade, and my favorite subject is math because it's very challenging for me.
My name is Joey Mundinger, and I'm in 5th grade, and I go to Seton, and my favorite subject is art because I get to express myself.
Well, good reasons for liking your subjects. I do have a certificate of appreciation here for each one of you, so you can take it home in remembrance of tonight, and it's also a little thank you gift for being with us tonight. So, again, thank you. Now, as I say, you can take off. You can leave already, and your parents can leave at the same time. So. And I'd like that's a representative from Aurora Medical Center to come on up. I have a proclamation here tonight. I'd like to stand right over here. A proclamation I'd like to present, and I want to read it first. Proclamation, whereas Aurora Medical Center, Oshkosh, will commemorate its 10th anniversary on October 27, 2013. And whereas Aurora Medical Center's philosophy is patient-centered care, and that everyone is a caregiver and further represents the next generation of health care with its emphasis on patient choice and comfort with many featured specialty medical services. And whereas Aurora Medical Center is accredited by the American College of Surgeons National Accreditation Program for Breast Centers, the first nationally accredited breast center in the Fox Valley. And whereas Aurora Medical Center has also earned certification by the Joint Commission for its stroke program, being the first center in the Fox Valley to earn this accreditation. And whereas Aurora Medical Center has been granted accreditation with distinction by the Undersea and Hyperbaric Medical Society for their hyperbaric program. And now, therefore, I, Burke Tower, Mayor of the City of Oshkosh, do hereby proclaim its commendations for 10 years of exceptional quality and outstanding service to our community to Aurora Medical Center, Oshkosh. And the City Council commends the dedicated caregivers and volunteers of Aurora Medical Center for creating and maintaining a hospital that is committed to providing the highest quality of care. Jeff, would like to say a few words?
Thank you very much, Mayor, and as well as City Council members and the community of Oshkosh and surrounding communities. We very much appreciate, on behalf of Aurora and the employees and physicians that make up Aurora, thank you for welcoming us to the community 10 years ago, October of 2003, and look forward to serving this community in the years to come. So thank you very much.
Thank you for the last 10 years. Look forward to the next time. Okay, next item on the agenda is a public hearing. It is Resolution 13-466. I will read it 3 times. If anybody would like to come up and comment on it, the microphone is open for such comments. Resolution 13-466. Approve final resolution vacating alley between Libby Avenue and East Smith Avenue and Mount Vernon Street and Ashland Street. Resolution 13-466, approve final resolution vacating alley between Libby Avenue and East Smith Avenue and Mount Vernon Street and Ashland Street. Final reading, Resolution 13-466, approve final resolution vacating alley between Libby Avenue and East Smith Avenue and Mount Vernon Street and Ashland Street. I see no one coming forward. I'll bring it back to the council for a motion and a second regarding Resolution 13-466.
So moved. Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, I'll ask clerk to take the roll call vote on Resolution 13-466.
Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Cummings.
Aye.
Pack.
Aye.
Herman.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Tower.
Aye.
Carried 6.
Okay, that takes us to citizen statements to the council. This is an opportunity if you have maybe a concern about some aspect of the community, or maybe you'd like to commend the community for something that's going on in the community. So provide you some free opportunity to make those kinds of comments. A few things, if you'd like to come up and make the comments, come up to the microphone, give us your name, give us your address, limit your comments to 5 minutes, speak directly to the council. There's to be no electioneering, and please do not speak to anything that's formally on the agenda for tonight. Anybody like to come forward at this time?
My name is Gary Gray. My address is 815 West Linwood, Oshkosh. As the members of the council know, the city is involved with budgeting and the process of budgeting. Unfortunately, what's the general case is that expenses increase all the time, and at times it's difficult to balance the budget. Most of the time, the process is for the department managers make a presentation on the budget items and proposed additions. You never hear of a department head asking for a reduction of budget, which is okay, but because if I was head of a department, I probably would always ask for a basic budget or a bigger budget and not a smaller budget. I think what should be done, and I realize it's perhaps a little bit difficult, is to take a look to see if the necessary services can be done in a different way, both operationally and financially. For instance, I'm not sure on how frequently the various fines and fees are recomputed Perhaps that should be done on a regular basis if it isn't. There also could be some services that perhaps could be done better by a different organization. It could be maybe the county, like the health department was a few years ago, was eliminated, and the health functions was taken over by the county. Perhaps something like that. Or perhaps even if some activity is in the area of making buggy whips, maybe that should be stopped. Also, a lot of people say services equal revenues, which basically means increase in services means increase in property taxes. I am not sure if that's really completely truthful, and it may not be too useful. It's perhaps like saying 2 plus 3 plus 5 equals 10. It's true, but what use is it? I think one of the things that should be looked at, perhaps not in this cycle, is how to restrict the increases in property taxes. We all hear, last night we heard some department heads give a flowing and very well done presentation on why the expenses should be incurred. But when will the council hear the negative impacts on increase in property taxes? As far as I know, I have really not seen that in any of my experience in the past. And I think the negative impact on increasing property taxes is very real for some people and should be considered as an additional factor in doing a budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to come forward at this time? Okay, I see no one coming forward, so I'll move to the consent agenda. The consent agenda is made up of a number of items that are viewed as being non-controversial. As such, we tend to vote on them as a package. However, if there's a citizen or a council member who wants a particular item removed from the consent agenda and considered separately, we will be more than happy to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read through the consent agenda, and if you have a comment on any item on the consent agenda, as I read that item, I'd ask you to come up to the microphone. After I've gone through it and we've heard from citizens who are here, I will bring the consent agenda back to the council for some questions and discussion and ultimately for a vote of approval or non-approval, as the case might be. Okay. The consent agenda. Approval of bills presented by the Finance Director. Receipt and filing of museum board minutes from September 5, 2013. Receipt and filing of Common Council minutes from October 8, 2013. Resolution 13-467, approved purchase of play equipment for Teichbeller Park from Gerber Leisure Products. Resolution 13-468, award bid for leaf vacuum truck chassis and dump body equipment for street division to Step Equipment Company, Packer City International, and Monroe Truck Equipment. Resolution 13-469, accept donation of flagpole for Opera House Square from Oshkosh Area Community Foundation. Resolution 13-470, approve agreement between City of Oshkosh and UW Oshkosh Foundation for Carl Steiger Park improvements and maintenance. Resolution 13-471, approve agreement between the City of Oshkosh and the towns of Algoma, Blackwood, Nakai, Omro, Boygan, Rushford, Utica, Winneconne, and Village of Winneconne, and City of Omro for ambulance services. Did you want to speak to one of them? Yeah. Okay. Either way, I'm sorry. Just come on up. Be bold. Which one did you want to talk to?
The resolution 13-467 for the Teichbeller Park.
Sure.
My name is Melissa Kendall. I live at 1828 Plymouth Street. I am with the Algoma Park Neighborhood Association. and I just want to say we're so excited. We voted on September 30th for the park, which equipment that we wanted to have in the park. We had families, children, everybody was there, and we overwhelmingly voted for the equipment. And I just want to say thank you, and I hope we get your vote tonight.
We thank you for your participation in helping making this happen.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
My name is Gary Gray, 815 West Linwood. I want to speak to Resolution 13-471 about the EMS services agreement. I do not know why this service is not based on users' fees. Why should the city pay for something like this? I understand EMS is a very serious, it's very serious service, and people asking for the service are in generally very serious conditions. But it seems to me like this should be user fee based and not have part of the tax levy be used for this activity. Also, if the per capita fee is adopted, I do not know why it's for a 5-year term. By the fact that it seems like, with the exception of the increase in inflation, no increased cost is picked up by the per capita fee, which means that the city of Oshkosh picks up the increase in expenses. The other thing I thought was very interesting is that there is a provision in here to terminate the agreement within the 5-year time period, which is very interesting to me. The deadline for termination is August 1st of the year, but the evaluation of the program is during the month of August. So basically, you need to terminate the contract before evaluating it. I thought that it was very interesting. Thank you.
And thank you. I think we'll probably make some comments on that at the time we take a look at it.
Yes, as a matter of fact, Deputy Mayor Herman asked that this be pulled off consent.
Okay, so we'll do it. We'll respond to some of those comments, because I think some of those comments are already some answers, appropriate kinds of answers. Anybody else I skip over here? Okay, sorry. Resolution 13-472, award bid for Public Works contract number 13-22 to Vizu Sewer, Inc. for sanitary sewer rehabilitation on various streets. Resolution 13-473, approval of purchase of wetland mitigation credits for James Road area and the National Guard Armory area stormwater detention basins from Wolf River Basin Mitigation Bank. Resolution 13-474, approve initial resolution for special assessments, cold mix asphalt paving, alley north of 21st Avenue and east of Oregon Street. Resolution 13-475, resolution determining to issue general obligation corporate purpose bonds, Series 2013B of the City of Oshkosh, Winnebago County, Wisconsin, in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $9,120,000, providing details, prescribing the form of bond, and levying taxes. Resolution 13-476, resolution determining to issue general obligation promissory notes, Series 2013C of the City of Oshkosh, Winnebago County, Wisconsin, in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $1,710,000, providing details, prescribing the form of note, awarding the notes to the best bidder, and levying taxes. Resolution 13-477, resolution providing for the issuance and sale of sewer system revenue bonds, Series 2013D of the City of Oshkosh, Winnebago County, Wisconsin, in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $4,315,000, providing details, prescribing the form of bond, and providing for the payment of said revenue bonds and other details and covenants with respect thereto. Resolution 13-478, resolution providing for the issuance and sale of water system revenue bonds, Series 2013E of the City of Oshkosh, Winnebago County, Wisconsin, in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $3,975,000, providing details, prescribing the form of bond, and providing for the payment of said revenue bonds and other details and covenants with respect thereto. Resolution 13-479, approve a special event, bid to utilize city streets for their downtown Oshkosh Widows Weekend Horse and Carriage Rides, November 23, 2013. Resolution 13-480, again, another special event, Festival Foods, Oshkosh YMCA and the Boys and Girls Club to utilize streets for their turkey trot, November 28, 2013. Resolution 13-481, disallowance of claim by Steve and Rebecca Kaiser. Resolution 13-482, approve combination Class A license and special Class B licenses. Okay, I see no people coming forward to speak to any of these, so I'll bring them back to the council for a number of questions and see if anybody wants to have anything removed. Mr. Cummings.
Thank you, Mayor Tower. Resolution 13-473. I think I know what that means, but could you explain it in layman's terms what the Wolf River Basin Mitigation Bank is?
You asked for a layman's term, so I think that's my turn, not Mr. Potek. So.
I was looking at you.
That's a land bank that's created for situations like this where the area isn't large enough to really have a dedicated wetland area that we can mitigate. So we basically buy into this large area that the state's purchased, and we can get our wetland mitigation that we're required to do when we disturb wetlands over at the James Road detention pond. By moving it there, they're responsible for all the maintenance. If we were to move wetland area over to in the James Road area, we'd have to demonstrate that we're maintaining it, and there's a lot of costs associated with that. And the staff report got into that level of detail, showing the cost benefit that basically buying into a wetlands bank that has permanent maintenance is really more cost effective for us.
Isn't that really saying if what we take away, we have to give back somewhere else? I mean,
right. We could have given back on site, but then we'd be responsible for ongoing maintenance, and you have to demonstrate that you're doing it on an ongoing basis, not just say, oh, we moved it over here, trust us. This way we've essentially purchased the permanent maintenance, perpetual maintenance of it.
Thank you.
Other things? Mr. Herman.
Mr. Muller? This is reference resolution 13-467. Could you tell us what playground equipment we're purchasing for the park so that the citizens know what they can expect out there?
Sure. There's a number of items that are new and what I would call innovative in the playgrounds. There's some spinner seats that the kids sit on and spin. There's some standard playground equipment, your slides. The neighborhood did ask for some additional swings out there. We originally had one bay with bucket or toddler swings and then one bay with belt swings. They did ask for some additional swings, so we added another bay, some swings. So there's going to be a total of 6 swings, I believe. Trying to think what else is specific out there. Tire swing, they actually have a tire swing out there right now that is old and been vandalized, and they really wanted to have a tire swing back out there, so a tire swing. I think there's a climbing net. So it's a multitude of activities, and there's a small area or a small structure for the 2 to 5-year-old age group, and then there's a larger area for the 5 to 12-year-old age group.
Okay. Is any of this playground equipment ADA compliant?
It's all ADA compliant, and part of the project will be for our staff to go in next spring, put a perimeter walkway around the entire play structure, and then have an accessible walkway coming up from the cul-de-sac area.
Okay. And if I remember right, this replaces all equipment that your staff deemed was unsafe, and we took it out, so they have not had any playground equipment there since?
There was some that was removed. We are removing the remaining equipment that is out there. If the resolution passes this evening, we'll start removing actually this week or next week.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Other comments? Mr. Herman again.
Yeah, I'd like to pull Resolution 13-471 for a separate discussion and vote. And then I also have questions. Our finance director, I don't believe, is here tonight.
questions regarding,
Resolution 13-475, could you explain, kind of Mr. Cummings' comment, what's the general obligation corporate purpose bond? We got that. What's 476? What's an obligation promissory note? And 477, 478 say that we're trying to purchase water system revenue bonds. So just for the citizens to kind of get an idea of what the different bonds are and why we get different types of bonds for the city, if you could just
Okay.
explain that.
what I'll do is Mr. Todd Taves from Ellers Associates drove all the way up from Brookfield, so we might as well make his trip worth it
Yes.
by having him answer those questions. Good evening, Todd.
Good evening. Very simply, these are...
Again, could you just give us your name and address?
Oh, sure. Todd Taves, 375 Bishop's Way, Brookfield, Wisconsin.
Thank you.
These are simply borrowing for the projects you have already completed this year.
Right.
The bonds and the notes, the GO is your general city projects. The water would be the water system projects, and same with the sewer. So simply going out and doing the financing for the projects you've already committed to and have either completed or in the process of completing.
Okay. One other question. It says in here that we will not go over 5% on the bonds. So if the bonds don't come in at that, let's say they come in at 7 or 8, then you won't sell them at that point?
Correct. What you're doing is you're authorizing the sale of these, but subject to us beating all of the various parameters that are in the resolution. The 5% is actually what we call a maximum coupon, which is the face value of the bond. But what we actually award on is the true interest cost. And the maximum true interest cost on the water and the sewer revenue bonds is actually 4.5% total. We've got 4.10% max on the general obligation bonds and a 2.85% on the general obligation notes. Those are a lower rate because they're a maximum of 10 years. They're a shorter term, thus expectation of a lower interest rate.
Okay. And just final question, maybe you can answer this, maybe you can't. With what's happened in the last couple of weeks in Washington with shutdown government, these are government bonds. So how would that affect the city if, let's say, the federal government defaulted or something?
These are bonds issued by the city. You're not reliant in general on federal revenues, so purchasers and bidders on these bonds are not going to associate your credit quality with that of the federal government. So we've not seen any adverse reaction in the municipal market in terms of either the appetite or the interest rate for municipal bonds as a result of what's transpired in the Capitol over the last several weeks and months.
Okay, thank you.
That satisfy your question? Yep. Anybody else have questions at this point? Thank you. Thanks for your drive up, for your help, your information. Anybody else have questions on anything else on the consent agenda? If not, I will ask for a motion on the consent agenda minus 13-471.
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? On the consent agenda, 13-471, not number 47, minus 13-471. Okay, ask for a vote on the roll call vote.
Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Cummings.
Aye.
Heck.
Aye.
Herman.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Tower.
Aye.
Carried 6.
Okay, that takes us to a pending ordinance, ordinance 13-483.
471.
Oh, I'm sorry, I got to go back to,
Yep.
so I need help up here. We did take an item off the consent agenda, so we need to consider that at this particular point in time. Resolution 13-471, and that is approve agreement between the City of Oshkosh and the towns of Algoma, Black Wolf, Nakai, Amro, Poygon, Rushford, Utica, Winneconne, and Village of Winneconne and City of Amro for ambulance services. I'll ask for a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion? I assume Mr. Herman has some
I have
discussion.
some questions of Chief Franz and Battalion Chief. Come forward, please. Thank you very much. Just a couple questions that maybe can clarify some things for me and the citizens. You heard one of the gentleman's concerns already about this. Roughly how many ambulance calls a year do we have in the different townships? I mean, combination, you don't have to break them down by township, but.
last year, the last total year that we have numbers for was 1,101, and that's out of a total of 7,106 calls for our entire service area, including the city.
Okay, so that's like 1/10 of the calls is in the townships?
Yes.
Do we break down how long our firefighters are out of the city at all?
Yes. Yep. Okay. And actually, the way we look at that is we actually calculate our unit hour utilization on when they're out there, and the average is for an ambulance call is 0.85 hours. So the ambulances are used outside of the city of their total unit hour availability, 10.62%.
Okay. Of that, how many ambulances can be outside the city at one time?
At times, we had vehicle accidents, et cetera, where we've had at least 3.
Okay.
And we have a total of 7 that are available.
Okay, if that happened and we had a major incident, what is our backup plan?
As I said, our backup plan is we have our 3 primary ambulances, and then we have 4 engine companies that are cross-staffed with ambulances. So then those engine companies go out of service, and they'll take, then go into service as an ambulance.
And I know we've had this contract, I believe it's been since 2004, or even sooner, I guess. Have we had that incident happen where we were caught with low ambulance service coverage for the citizens of Oshkosh?
There's been a few periods where we've had major structure fires going in the city where we've called mutual aid for not just EMS but also fire. I would say on average that's probably less than 2 times per year. Okay. In the first year, the only time that I recall that we needed to use mutual aid was during the Simiana fire.
Okay. We go all the way out to the town of Poygan. That's probably, 30, 35 miles on a call?
Yeah, it's about 20, 25
minutes. Okay. In this contract, is wear and tear on the equipment part of the bid process too?
Yes, that's all calculated into our cost and unit hour for our ambulances, the maintenance cost and the replacement cost of our ambulances and the amortization over 10 years.
Okay. With the proposal that the city manager is making for council consideration of possibly eliminating 5 unfilled positions in the fire department, how will that impact the ambulance service and ambulance providership, not only for the citizens of Oshkosh, but for the townships? Can we afford to do it, I guess?
Well, that's jumping ahead a little bit. They are interconnected. I won't say that it's going to have a positive impact. One of the negative, as I told you about, that we cross-staff engine companies with an ambulance. What the loss of that would mean is that engine companies, those calls have to be distributed somewhere. So that would make those cross-staff units somewhat less available.
Okay. Would that reduce response time to an ambulance call within the city of Oshkosh for our residents?
Possibly for the whole area.
Okay. If council voted this down, what would happen? What do you perceive would happen for the townships? What would they be able to? Would they be without ambulance service?
It would be probably difficult for them at this point in time, to get a service together. But I can tell you the impact on the city that it would also have, though.
Okay.
Would that be?
Yeah, that'd be fair.
Okay. The impact on the other hand, if we would not do this, since it generates revenue, they said that we'd use it about 10.62% of the total hour time is used out there. But 15% of the calls, but it also generates about $410,000 in revenue. So we'd have an untoward reaction by not continuing with this contract because that revenue is actually a little bit more than what we're looking at this. So we would have an equal cut to what you're already looking at, therefore compounding, not making the availability to zero them, also decreasing the availability in the city. Of the 3 primary ambulances that we have, about 49% of one of those ambulances used for outside of the city. We could not pay for a half an ambulance. So what that would mean is that 51% would have to be redistributed again to those 2 primary ambulances, therefore making availability and response times poorer in the city.
Okay. You mentioned revenue. By that, it reduces our cost, the taxpayers here in the city of Oshkosh, right?
Correct.
What we have, I think it was 89,208 is what's budgeted.
Yes.
If we didn't have that, it would probably, roughly just, what would it cost for us to have ambulance service then in the city of Oshkosh? We didn't have that additional revenue.
Well, without that, some other ways to try to reduce that cost even more would be, not having the cross-staff ambulances, something like that. Availability would suffer.
Okay. Chief Ofsted, you're in charge of the ambulance service providership, I guess, and staffing and that. How do you feel the extra calls of service puts additional stress and strain on your staff?
Well, obviously, anytime that you add call volume to people's workload, yeah, that is add extra stress to it. But as the chief mentioned, that if you took all of the ambulance runs and distributed in one ambulance, that only takes 49% of that one ambulance. Okay. So the city benefits by having 51% of the time that ambulance available in the city.
Okay. And we also do transports to other hospitals and major hospitals like Milwaukee, Madison.
Yes, we do. And that probably would compound, that was one thing the chief didn't mention, is that if that ambulance, if the contract wasn't signed for the county response, that third ambulance probably would be non-existent. That would also eliminate the ability for us to do long distance transports, which would be in the $130,000 to $150,000 more impact that we would lose revenue wise. So we'd have to look for that amount on top of the couple of the thousands of dollars mentioned by the loss of revenue from the townships.
And when an ambulance goes, it's just the ambulance, right? The townships provide their first responders and their fire department personnel.
Yes, yeah. Out of the townships, there's actually 6 first responder groups that are attached to the fire departments, and they actually respond. The town of Winneconne-Poygan and town of Winneconne are covered by the Winneconne-Poygan Fire Department, and then town of Rushford are covered by the Rushford Fire Department as first responders. So they respond to the call, prior to us getting there, of course, because of the distance that we have to travel, and then stabilize the patient until we arrive.
Okay, good.
One thing I just wanted to make sure that you're aware of also, occasionally, and more so lately, we have had to provide mutual aid to some of the outlying communities, particularly during daytime hours, because they don't have first responders or coverage available. So that happens.
So you're saying
not very
fire
often, but
staff personnel can also go out on a mutual aid?
Occasionally.
Okay.
But and that's one of the problems is that they're having issues with staffing. And I'll give you one example. Recently, there was a vehicle accident with someone pinned in the vehicle was on fire, and we didn't have confirmation that we had a fire department or first responders going to it, so we sent our personnel to that.
And our 911 center and through the communication system automatically tells that dispatcher that they may need Oshkosh Fire to respond along with the ambulance and
yes, that was after we were already en route. Okay, so I wouldn't say that it happens a lot, but I just wanted to make sure that you understood.
I'm sure it does. And also we have one of the few JAWS, right? I mean, so you cover 41, parts of 41 down to 26
Yep,
area?
roughly from the Butamore Bridge down to Highway 26. And occasionally, when there's more than one vehicle involved or it's a complicated extrication, we will send our heavy rescue also to help on mutual aid.
Okay, and all our ambulances have computer software in the ambulance and direct contact with all the hospitals and everything that they need?
Yes.
Okay, very good. That's all the questions I have.
Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor?
I think you answered.
Just an additional item that Chief Ostad and Chief Franz, this issue came up originally 10 years ago when there was a chance that we were going to lose firefighters because we didn't have enough resources to do that. And the business model that was created by Chief Franz and embraced by our surrounding townships enabled us to save a lot of different jobs that may have otherwise been eliminated because, as Chief Ostad mentioned, and I think Deputy Mayor Herman mentioned, we were going to lose, we can't have half a unit. So this enabled us to maintain that additional ambulance unit, which kept us safer because we have more resources available 24 hours a day as a result of that. And even though it's 1/7 the calls, it's only 1/10 the service. So I know it sounds corny, but it really is a genuine win-win for all of us. If anything, this should be used as a model for everything else. The chief talks about going out of town for mutual aid calls. This is an example of where it's not mutual aid. It's a contracted service, and I hope that answers some of Mr. Gray's questions as well, because this is primarily a fee-based operation for the EMS service we provide, and it really is an outstanding service. The small amount that we are assessing each of the communities is what, $1.35 compared to everything else. That's an extreme value compared to what these other townships and cities and villages were looking at 10 years ago when Chief Franz developed this model.
And I just want to make a comment on it. I didn't pull this because I'm against it. I wanted a lot of this information out in the community because I get asked that all the time. And being a former sheriff's deputy, I knew a lot of this, but I felt it was important to not just have it on a consent and let it fly through, and then the citizens are asking a lot of, why is our ambulance in Amro, why is our ambulance in Poygan, those types of things. And I don't think in the past years that's always, because this doesn't come up only, every 5 years?
Yeah, it
It's a
gets
contract.
forgotten.
So I wasn't even on council the last time the mayor approved it. So I thought it was important to get a lot of this information out to our citizens. We are in the budget time, so I just thought it was important to get a lot of this information out. So
If I can get to I think the spirit of what Mr. Gray was asking about was, we assess the townships a specific fee for the contract, but we also bill the people who use the service in addition to the base fee that we set.
That's correct. And then the gross revenues you'll see in the budget is $2.65 million. It's a lower amount that's net after write-offs that may vary from year to year. It could possibly break even, but we base it off a worst-case scenario here so that we have that depending on how collections go in a particular year. So the user fees pay, worst-case scenario, pay for 94% of the operation. So the positive part of that, though, another piece of that number, or that you could look at it from the city's benefit, that, as I stated in my memo, 94% of the cost of 22 personnel is covered by this, of which only 10% of their time is spent outside of the city. The city gains by having those firefighters in it because they're not just paramedics, they're also cross-trained as firefighters, and they respond to major incidents and structure fires, that they're available for the city's use 90% of the time.
Okay, other questions? So there is a user fee? No, not at this point. You can ask it another time. Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, any other questions regarding this at all? If not, I will ask the clerk to take the roll call vote on Resolution 13-471.
Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Cummings.
Aye.
Peck.
Aye.
Herman.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Tower.
Aye.
Carried 6.
Okay, that now takes us to pending ordinances, and ordinance 13-483, repeal Urban Wildlife Advisory Committee. Anybody like to speak to that? I see no one coming forward, so we'll bring it forward to the council for a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
So moved and seconded. That's ordinance 13-483. Discussion. Okay, we heard some discussion last time from the chair of the committee. The chair indicated that the committee had voted 4-2 to repeal it, with the basic belief that the committee had taken care of their responsibilities as the committee was originally set up, and that remaining responsibilities could be handled by the Parks Department. Consistent? Is that a fair representation, Mr. Maurer?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, and Councilor Cummings, and I know Fitzgerald has been on a short period, but it's been the feeling of the committee that their goal has been achieved. The duties that they were assigned as part of the ordinance have been achieved by the management plan that has been approved and passed by the committee as well as the council. And as staff, we will continue to implement that management plan moving forward.
Okay, so you don't have a problem with this?
No, I do not.
I have one question.
Yep. Mr. Herman.
Just one question. This committee was pretty much formed because of the deer issues we had with the quarry and all that. Where are we at with that as far as, I know that this isn't really part of that, but is that being resolved Do we have any issues in that area with the quarry?
Yep, we are. We're actually working with the quarry, the new management, as well as the city attorney's office to enter an agreement to allow for management to take place continually at the quarry as well.
Okay. And that was the major role of this group initially, and then it dealt with some other animal issues within the city that are considered wild animals.
That's correct, and we addressed a lot of those different wildlife issues in the management plan.
Okay.
And I think the other thing was is there were a number of policies that were set up along the way. That was a concern. We didn't have policies for how to handle a number of these things. Mr. Fitzgerald, do you have a question?
Yeah, and Mr. Morrow can, I think, back this up, but I know there was some concern from citizens at the final meeting, I should say the last meeting of the Urban Wildlife Committee, that this was an acknowledgement by the city that there was no longer any kind of an urban wildlife issue that existed. And the fact of the matter is that the work that was done by the committee was to set up those policies, and those policies are in fact in force right now. There is a practice in place by the Parks Department to manage wildlife within the community, and certainly if issues come up for citizens, they can contact the Parks Department, and the Parks Department has a procedure and policy for dealing with issues related to wildlife within the city. But this is certainly not a acknowledgement that there is no problem. It's just saying that the work of the committee, which was to set up those policies, is now done, and now the work will continue underneath the auspices of the Parks Department.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for the clarification. Mr. Clark?
I just want to take a quick moment to say thank you for those that have served on this board and commission, and encourage people to continue to be involved in our boards and commissions, because as you see tonight, that we're talking about this because it's important to have citizen feedback throughout the process.
Very much so. Thank you. Anybody else? If not, I will ask for a roll call vote on ordinance 13-483.
Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Cummings.
Aye.
Peck.
Aye.
Herman.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Tower.
Aye.
Carried 6.
Okay, it takes us to new ordinances. These will take 2 readings to finally get passed, so I will read them tonight. There will be an opportunity tonight and at the next meeting to discuss these. The council will not vote on these tonight. The first one is ordinance 13-484, approval of parking regulation changes on Algoma Boulevard, Court Street, Jocelyn Street, Morgan Avenue, Pierce Avenue, Taft Avenue, Viola Avenue, Walnut Street, and 22nd Avenue. Anybody like to speak to that?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Robert Stone, Winnebago County Veteran Service Office. We have somewhat of a vested interest in the proposal to change the parking on at 504 Algoma. Our property fronts, that's our front door, and we would just register this evening in favor of the proposal.
You're in favor of the proposal?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Anybody else like to speak to this? Okay, then we'll go on to ordinance 13-485. Cancel December 24, 2013 council meeting. Okay, as I say, both of these ordinances will be read again next time. We'll provide opportunities to speak to them next time, and votes will be taken by the council next time. New resolution, Resolution 13-486, approve tax incremental district number 7 project plan allocation, amendment number 6 to permit sharing of surplus increment with TID number 20, South Shore Redevelopment Area, and TID number 21, Fox River Corridor Project. Anybody like to speak to that?
My name's Gary Gray, 815 West Linwood. I hope the council doesn't misunderstand me like it seemed like it misunderstood my comments on the EMS contract, but let me try to be a little bit more specific. I am for the resolution. I do a Mr. Peck thing. I am for the resolution. 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 So please don't say I'm against the resolution. What I want to do is say something in regards to perhaps future activities for TIF District 20. Well, I'm sorry. Let me go back to TIF number 7. After these transfers are made, TIF 7 will only have about, according to the table here, $8.8 million left of, let's say, excess revenue. That is not 100% correct, because if you take a look at the CAFA for 2012, about $3 million of that is already restricted, so basically the net is only about $5 million. Also, if you take a look at the proposed 5-year CIP program, there is recommended expenditures of roughly $29 million for the next 5 years, which means that if you divide the 29 by 5, that's basically $6 million a year of additional expenses. Now, I am not saying that it should not be incurred. All I'm saying is that please recognize the fiscal impact on those expenses, because the $29 million would need approximately a $72 million assessed value in TIF District 20. Now, if TIF District 20 does not have $72 million of assessed value, then the bonds need to be paid off by one of two ways. One is to find another donor TIF, or else just take general tax revenue and pay those bonds. So I guess what I'm saying is that please, be very careful over the next couple of years. Perhaps the city should spend roughly $6 million a year on the river sidewalk. I am not saying that the city should not. I am not saying the city should. I'm saying that if the expenditures are incurred as the CIP proposal is, we're going to incur $29 million. And that does have a little bit of financial impact to the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak to it? If not, we'll bring it back to the council for a motion and a second.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. For discussion.
Question, Mr. Davis. You kind of heard Mr. Gray's comments and things, Mr. Davis. Could you just kind of tell us, by us approving this donor TIF to 20 and 21, just what the plans are for the allocation of the funds and things that are going on?
The immediate concern is to take care of the existing debts that we already have in 20 and 21, and that's the fundamental reason that we explored this as an option, because the city has spent money in acquisition, demolition, remediation in both those districts. TIF 21 has had some increment, but it doesn't have enough to pay off all the debts. Unfortunately for TIF 20, that includes the Pioneer Island area, and that is actually a decrement, so there isn't even an income stream to cover those debts. So if we're looking at ways to meet those obligations, this seemed to be a logical choice.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Other comments, questions? Okay, seeing none, I'll ask clerk to take the roll call vote on resolution 13-486.
Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Cummings.
Aye.
Peck.
Aye.
Herman.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Tower.
Aye.
Carried 6.
Council discussion, direction city manager, and future agenda items. Future agenda items, October 29th. That's next Tuesday, the 5th Tuesday of the month. We're going to have another budget workshop. We had our 4th budget workshop actually last night. It was the first one in which we had departments come in. Went from 5:30 to 10, I think, last night. So next week we'll be having the remaining departments come in, starting at 5:30 and going till we complete the process. Okay, November 6th, there's another budget meeting, the CIP follow-up workshop. So CIP will be discussed that night, and also probably some things about the budget that are kind of carryovers, lead into as we move forward on the budget. C is a workshop on special events to be determined. That's out there for the future.
Mr. Mayor, one moment.
Sure.
While we're on the special events workshop, Mr. Roloff, could you update the council related to sawdust days and the special event fees?
To date, we have not received the payment from Sawdust Days. I will be calling Ms. Schmidt to find out the status of that. We did send out the bill, I believe, in mid-August, normally 30 days, so it would have been due in mid-September, so it's a month overdue.
Okay, thank you.
Is, that being said, Mr. Roloff, is there interest on any of that? I mean, do they owe more now than what
I'll
they were
have to check
charged?
and see what our terms are. I don't know. I don't have the answer for you, but I can check on that.
And on just another note of that, if they continue not to pay, would we take legal action against them?
If it came to that, we may need to. I'd certainly consult with the city attorney before we do that. I'm hoping that a personal appeal to Ms. Schmidt will get some action. I haven't spoken with her, so I need to do that. And
There's nothing in our,
last time.
and I don't want to get discussing it too much, but there's nothing in our ordinance that currently we would be able to issue some type of a failure to conform to this ordinance or some type of, like a violation of this ordinance, the failure to pay by, what are we charging them with, failure to pay the special event fees? Is there an ordinance? How do we do
I
that?
probably wouldn't go that route with it. I would probably seek to
A judgment against them or
seek a
something?
judgment against them. I mean, your other option under the ordinance is you can not approve any further events for them.
Okay, thank you.
Just one question. Has anyone in that organization contacted us to explain why they're late or make payment arrangements?
I have not received any calls or explanation.
Obviously, these things will have impact on any future things with respect to the group, and will probably have an impact on our discussions, Mr. Pick, bring it up when we talk about the special events policy to deal with some of the issues you're talking about. We operate on a lot of good faith, which I think is the appropriate thing to do until that good faith is violated. And once that good faith is violated, we may have to
take action,
institute some steps in a new policy that allow us to go forward in a different kind of manner than we have in the past, which would be unfortunate. So I'm disappointed. Anything else, sir? Okay, 26, Joint Workshop Council Plan Commission, Redevelopment Authority, Vision of Riverfront Development. We said we'll get to that later again, something that's important, probably after the first of the year. Next thing has been added to the agenda, discussion on proposed bill regarding frack mining. Mr. Clark, I believe, added that to the agenda recently, today or yesterday.
I did. While attending the League of Wisconsin Municipalities Conference, I attended a workshop session on recent and future changes in water and utility law. And one of the things that came up was a proposed bill, which is currently not, it does not have an Assembly bill number or a Senate bill number. It's still known as LRB 3146. Largely, it's related to frac sand mining, which is an issue more to the north. But there are some provisions in there that would affect, particularly our Public Works Department, with language that limits local authority. And one of the things that, as a member of the Stormwater Committee, stuck out to me is there's a section, it's listed as 281.125 in the proposed legislation that would limit the authority of any municipality to establish or enforce a standard of water quality or any form of approval related to water quality and quantity. So some of our stormwater ordinances and our calculations of how we charge and bill for the stormwater utility could be affected by this piece of legislation. It also affects the ability of a municipality to respond to any damage to roadways through language via ordinance or contract. So it would effectively nullify by state law any part of our ordinances that requires a contractor to pay for damages to public assets. So it would limit our recourse in that, and that would thus shift the damages from the agent who caused the damages directly to our taxpayers through the work that would have to be done by the public works staff and the utilities associated with it. So I thought this is something that I know in the past we've made recommendations through resolutions to our state senators and our state representatives. I was wondering if this might be something that we would wish to pursue again. I have made personal contact to the offices of Senator Gudex and our Representative Gordon Hintz. I have not had a chance to speak directly with either one of those individuals.
Thoughts on that?
Mr. Clark, is there any sponsor on this yet, or?
The sponsors are Representative. I think it's Senator Tiffany and there's one sponsor as a representative, which I can look up here quickly. But they are in the process of searching for more sponsors to the bill. So it's not on the floor yet.
And this is the same group in Madison that we often hear the term local control out of?
It is associated with, the representative's name is Joan Ballweg.
Okay. So much for local control.
Yeah. I mean, this would drastically affect our ability to assess assess fines, fees for not complying with our stormwater ordinances, because some of our grass clipping, when grass clippings are discharged into the roadway, that is a fine that is assessed through the stormwater utility based on a water quality standard that would directly be affected by this.
So maybe that hammer that we were given is turning into a rubber hammer to beat us in the head.
Mr. Roloff, your thoughts on that? I assume the league will be taking an official position in opposition to it. Would resolutions be helpful? And if so, at what point in time would that be most appropriate?
Whenever we have an opportunity to get a resolution, I think it's much more powerful. A lot of times these things come up and we don't even have time to bring it up because it's only in a resolution that's seeking supporters. It may be appropriate to bring this back to council for a formal action. I think we'll have time for it. We'll certainly begin the process because some of the provisions that were in there that Councilor Clark cited were in the budget bill. Fortunately, they got pulled out. Now it's amazing that we can talk about frack mining, which is totally unrelated to anything that's going on in Oshkosh, and yet they've added things that could make it applicable to Oshkosh. The other one I would point out is there was a few weeks ago a resident had contacted some council members about potential changes over at the Vulcan now Michael's Quarry. As it exists right now, any expansion of that footprint would require a conditional use permit approved by the Plan Commission and the council. This law would take that away, take away the entire authority. So the information that we provided that person a few weeks ago that any changes would come through us, don't worry, essentially that would go away. We would lose complete authority. And Councilor asked me a couple weeks ago to respond to something, and I think it was complaining something about cable television. That was taken away. The more and more local authorities being taken away, and when something like a quarry that has significant impact on our community, and you're taking away what little authority we had left, they're taking those types of things away. Similarly, even basic enforcement of some stormwater laws, and every community in the state's different, and this was the issue that went back in June. I had written a letter to our local legislators saying there is no one-size-fits-all rule to deal with stormwater issues. You get it over in Stevens Point, it's all sandy soil. You get water, it soaks into the soil very, very easily. In this area of the state, it's clay, and the water sits there. It needs to get drained to a proper place. It would take away our authority to be able to enforce certain standards. We have standards that we want up to a 100-year storm address. That would take that authority away. It's little things like that, and we only know what's in the draft resolution. Who knows what's going to happen with it once it gets passed around and other legislators say, well, I'll sign on if you have this, or I'll sign if you have that. Then who knows what kind of Frankenstein monster it can become.
There is another provision in here that would eliminate local control. I'm going to say this while our fire chief is still here, because it would limit our ability to regulate open burning. So it would, in essence, take away the local control of any banning ordinance for burning of trash, burning of leaves. The only thing that it would still give us control to local control over is the ability to regulate the burning of hazardous materials. But that's it. Everything else under this ordinance or under this proposed law, we would not be able to regulate. That would become control of the state, so we wouldn't be able to regulate anybody burning leaves, trash, etc. So air quality standards, anything that would fall under that would now fall under the auspices of the state, and we would have no longer the ability to enforce that.
Okay, again, I'll raise a question with Mr. Roloff. When would be the appropriate time to develop such a resolution? At what point in the process?
What we'll do
if we
is,
so desire to do so, and I'll look for a consensus here, I suspect we'll have a consensus to do so, but what's the appropriate time?
we have 3 weeks until the next council meeting. Once we know that it's been assigned a bill number and we know what the schedule is to get that going, we'll plan accordingly. I would imagine that it'll have a bill number by the time the next council meeting rolls around. Assuming that it doesn't go fast track, we'll schedule it for the November 13th council meeting if that's appropriate. Otherwise, we're going to have other meetings between now and then. If it looks like it's getting fast tracked, we may just add it as an agenda item. We've got next Tuesday's agenda with budget. We could always slip it in there. You've got a work session on November 6th. We could put it in there. So there are plenty of opportunities, but under normal circumstances, I'll put it on the next council agenda.
Okay, I'm going to make the assumption, and correct me if I'm wrong, is there anybody that would be opposed to having such a resolution brought forward to the council? Obviously, we would discuss it and vote on it at that time, so this is not there's anybody that has opposition to following through with that? No. Okay, we'd ask that you do so. Keep on top of it.
Very
Thanks,
good.
Councilman. We appreciate that. Way to be on top of that.
Excuse me. Thank you.
Okay, council member announcements and statements. I'm again going to come back to council member Clark, who wants to talk about Cask and Caskets Home Brew.
We have a wonderful organization in the city of Oshkosh called the Society of Oshkosh Brewers. It is a group of citizens that get together and brew our own beer, wine, and mead. And we are sponsoring an event called Cask and Caskets. It is going to be a home brew event for charity. So all of the proceeds from this event will be donated to our local food pantries. So this is a great opportunity for us to raise funds. It's also being held at the Oshkosh Convention Center on November 2nd. It's going to be in the evening, and I know there was some other events planned in our community that day. But if you're looking for more information, I would recommend that you go to the website that the Society had set up for that, and that is casksandcaskets.org. That'll have ticket prices, locations that you can purchase tickets. There's two sets of tickets. There's the general admission, which is for the tasting, and then there is a VIP ticket, which is for a 5-course meal that is going to be paired with beers that have been brewed by our members. And so the VIP tickets are a little bit more expensive, but those tickets do also include the general admission. But you get that nice 5-course meal to set you up for a wonderful event. So there's lots of information on that website. The event starts at 5 for the VIP dinner, and the general tasting starts at 7. I encourage anybody to participate in that. It's a wonderful environment and a safe environment. And because we're at the convention center, we also have a room rate set up with the Best Western Waterfront Premier Hotel and Convention Center. So we're also in the process in the business of promoting alcohol awareness and responsible drinking. So I thank you for the opportunity, and I encourage all of our council members and city staff to attend as well.
Okay, any other council member statements, announcements? I want to make one found out about on Thursday, November 7th, 7 to 9. As you know, in the last sets of elections here in the city, we did not have a large number of individuals who ran for offices, be that supervisors, council members, school board members. And so what is happening is that the League of Women Voters and the Oshkosh Chamber of Commerce are putting together a special session on Thursday, November 7th, 7 to 9, Winnebago County Courthouse in room 60, in which they're going to provide an opportunity for people that might be interested in running to find out about what's involved in running, what's involved in being in office. So it'll be kind of an interactive discussion, have somebody there from the city, from the county, from town of Black Wolf will be there, and from Winneconne. Also, to find out what it takes to run for office, what are all the kinds of requirements, what it might take in the way of money, and the things that you ought to think about. So hopefully the idea of this thing is to generate an additional group of people to come out and run for office at the next election, at the next set of elections, which will be in the spring. So again, Thursday, November 7th, 7 to 9, Winnebago County Courthouse, room 60. So nice opportunity to find out what it would be like to get involved. Okay, citizen statements to council. Once again, it's an opportunity for anybody to come up and make statements to the council. A couple things. One, if you spoke during the first session, you can't come back to the second session. If you do so, please come up, give us your name and address, limit your comments to 5 minutes, speak directly to the council, no electioneering, and nothing on the agenda. Microphone is open. See no one coming forward. So I'll bring it back to city manager announcements and statements.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First thing, I gave you a memo as a follow-up to last night's budget work session regarding the health plan. We are required by law to give our employees 60 days notice. This is kind of a new requirement with the Affordable Care Act. There was discussion about different options that we had pursued with health insurance. Because we need to give employees 60 days notice, we need to give them notice by November 1st. Our intent was to proceed with the co-pay plan that we had discussed last night, but there were some discussions about some possible other plans. If council members are interested in perhaps us pursuing a different plan, it would likely be appropriate to have that discussion on Tuesday at the next budget work session to give us some direction on that so we can make a change. I know that's a little bit last minute, but as we're learning more about the Affordable Care Law, this is one of those things that we do need to comply with. So I ask you to read the memo. If anybody would like to add it to the agenda as an agenda item for action by council, please let me know, and I'll have the clerk modify the agenda accordingly for Tuesday. Otherwise, we'll give the employees notice about the co-pay plan that we had discussed a little bit last night.
Any comments on that?
And then secondly, just a reminder, Sunday at 1:30, actually 1:15 I should say, is the ribbon cutting for Oak Lawn School. There's a community open house. Council members have been invited. If you haven't already received a personal invitation, I talked to Superintendent Stan Mack today, and the mayor will be making be one of the speakers, just making a few comments. But it's going to be a great community event. Take a look at the school. Superintendent Mack informed me that they'll be running shuttles from over at St. Vinny's, so because parking will be an issue out there, and I would encourage you to take the shuttle bus from St. Vinny's. I think you'll be a lot happier if you do it that way. So those are all I have, unless council has any questions.
Any questions, comments on that? Okay, it takes us to a motion to go into closed session. Last Deputy Mayor, Mr. Herman.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that following the adjournment of this meeting, the council convene into closed session pursuant to Section 19.85, Parent 1, Parent C of the Wisconsin State Statutes to discuss the performance evaluation compensation regarding the city manager, the employee over which the Common Council has jurisdiction and exercises responsibility.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, ask clerk to take the roll call vote on the motion to go into closed session.
Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Cummings.
Aye.
Peck.
Aye.
Herman.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Tower.
Aye.
Carried 6.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved.
Second.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none opposed, at 7:25, we will meet in the city manager's office.